Hey there kids, it's me, MrCreepyPasta, and before we get started on tonight's video, I'm going to tell you about, what I use to make food around my house, and you're going to see a little bit of my incredibly messy and cluttered kitchen. But it's all thanks to tonight's sponsor, HelloFresh. HelloFresh recipes feature produce that goes from the farm to your front door in under a week, which means their spring menu features the season's freshest flavors. With HelloFresh, it's so easy to adjust your plan and increase your order size to help with meal planning for large groups or, to have leftovers for lunch the next day. In my case, I live with my wife and her sister, so we have to order meals for 4 people. They usually do 2s or 4s, so that means I have lunch for tomorrow. HelloFresh won't get in the way of a busy day and stay on track with simple recipes and fresh, pre-portioned ingredients that cut out meal prep and trips to the grocery store. I mean, it obviously cuts out the trips to the grocery store because it comes directly to your door, and it helps out with meal prep because it's everything you need. There's very, very little supplements of anything outside of this besides oil and pan. And HelloFresh cuts down on your food waste by at least 25% compared to grocery store shopping, meaning that you're not going to have all that excess plastic, if you like the sea turtles. And as you can see here, I'm not any kind of chef. At no point am I ever going to claim to be binging with Babish, but still, turns out pretty good and pretty delicious. Go to HelloFresh.com and use the code CreepyPasta16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 surprise gifts, which is pretty dang good. Once again, that's HelloFresh.com and CreepyPasta16, like you see on your screen right now. In all seriousness, I have continued using my subscription since the last time that I had HelloFresh here on the channel, and I'm happy to have them again. Give them a try. And now, on to tonight's story. If Las Vegas is America's playground, then the rest of Nevada is America's kitty litter box. And out here, the weirdest turds don't stay buried for long. Elvis was already dead when I ran him over. I'm absolutely convinced of that, whatever Ralphie Jr. says. Even with my shades on, the blazing sun reflecting off the desert made my eyes hurt. And I thought the white tasseled lump on the road was just another mirage, until my tires bumped over a beer gut and Elvis burst like a ripe strawberry on the desert highway. Of course, we stopped right away. I snatched Ralphie Jr.'s phone out of his hand before he could upload the gruesome scene to TikTok, and then I moved to inspect the damage. Pretty sure I could smell my shoes melting into the pavement. At first I was relieved when I saw the middle-aged Elvis impersonator had been a corpse for a while, but then I started to think about how he must have died. A gory rope of intestines led off into the desert behind the guy. Who knew how long he'd been crawling around trying to hold his guts in? Or had the coyotes got to him? Coyotes. Ralphie, honey, I began, get back in the car. By the time I turned around, it was too late. There were 4 of them between us and the SUV, grayish-brown, dog-like, with bushy tails. Their sunken yellow eyes were hungry. I could see their ribs through their patchy fur. So why were 2 of them chewing on the tires instead of us? I didn't want to think about the possibilities that they were disabling the SUV on purpose. The other 2 coyotes approached, stopping about 10 feet away, and just stared at us. Waiting. Parched, cracked dirt in every direction, sulfur-colored cliffs on the horizon, the shoe-melting strip of road. There was absolutely nowhere to run or hide. When the tires finally deflated, all 4 coyotes began to circle us. I wondered how much it would hurt to climb a cactus. A blood-curdling howl stopped them in their tracks. They snapped their heads towards the source of the sound, which stood beside a dick-shaped rock on the hazy distance. It looked like another coyote, but that was impossible because coyotes don't walk on 2 legs. Whatever it was, it yipped and it snarled. A warning at the 4 starving beasts in front of me, in a language they apparently understood. Looking down the road, I understood why. A gigantic semi-truck was speeding towards us. Ralphie Jr. and I both ran towards it, waving our arms like shipwreck survivors. The driver accelerated, then slowed, then accelerated again, almost like he was too afraid to stop. Either that or nobody had taught him how to shift. And the 18-wheeler skidded to a halt beside us in a cloud of dust. A weather-beaten guy with a Sam Elliott mustache stuck a shotgun out the window. "Democrat or Republican?" he demanded. "What the fuck does that have to do with anything?" I snapped. "I just want to ride." Sam Elliott Mustache Man thought this over for a minute. "Okay, I guess you guys are human after all. Come on up." Do you always ask helpless, stranded women about their politics? I asked, crossly, once Ralphie Jr. and I settled into the truck's cab. Or am I a special case?
Nah, the driver sighed. Had to make sure you could talk. That was the first thing that popped into my head. There's a bad stretch of road. There's some, unnatural things out there, but they can't talk. I was just making sure you wouldn't one of them. The other guys would probably say I'm a damn fool for stopping at all. I'm Ted, by the way. Ted Yellerhorse.
The interior of the cab smelled like nicotine, royal pine car freshener, and melted gummy worms, but it was better than being out there.
Yep, there's a bad stretch of road, all right. Even before some folks started disappearing a couple months ago. My people call this place salted earth. There's nothing can survive out there. Plus maybe it was already dead to begin with.
As Ted rambled on, we passed a dusty abandoned Cadillac with shredded tires, then the door hanging open. I figured that was Elvis's ride. Poor guy. Wondered what had made his tires go flat.
Oh shit!
Ted slammed on the brakes and clutched the wheel as we rolled over something spiky and hard. The truck jackknifed, rolled over, and I felt my son's pudge slam into the side of my head for the second time in a week. After the dust settled, and after I'd wiped Ted's cigarette ashes out of my hair and shoved his fallen porno mags off my lap, I realized the predicament that we were in. The truck was laying on its side, and I doubted it was going to cheerfully right itself anytime soon. Ted groaned, blood trickling down his scalp. Outside, 100 coyotes howled in victory. Ted didn't wake, not even when Ralphie stepped on his face in his flurry to escape. The ice in the spilled 44-ounce drink on my door, now the floor, brought back memories of high school friends comforting me while I puked into the toilet. They rubbed something cold in the back of my neck to snap me out of it. "Listen, asshole," I whispered to Ted as I splashed ice onto his neck. "You're not just going to bail on us like a minor character in a shitty horror story. Not today. My son and I have been through enough already, and the last time I shot a shotgun, the recoil gave me a black eye. Get it together!" Ted groaned and opened his eyes. I freed him from his seatbelt, and we climbed out into the late afternoon sun. Broken-down vehicles were all around us. It was almost like being back in New Jersey. One sedan had a coyote-sized hole in its windshield, the inside spattered with what was left of the passengers. The pickup truck had lost control and slammed into a rock. The half-eaten driver hung out of the window. "Great."
"This is a bad stretch of road,"
Ted repeated helplessly. In one hand, he held the bloody cloth to his head, and on the other, the shotgun. He gave the cliffs a thousand stare.
"There's a cave up there. We need to make it there before sunset."
"What?" I huffed. "That's like 5 miles."
"No, 8. Or you can wait for the coyotes."
Slogging across the parched dirt, a waterfall of sweat pouring down my back, and flies that felt as big as buzzards biting my neck, I made a silent promise that if I survived this, I'd remove loves hiking from my Tinder bio. Mother Nature is the biggest bitch of them all, I thought, as I rolled my ankle and cringed. "How do you know there's a cave up there, Mr. Ted?" Ralphie Jr. panted.
"Some of your ancestors massacred some of my ancestors up there. You know what a massacre is, kid?"
"It's like," Ralphie Jr. murmured, "like what the coyotes did."
"That's right,"
Ted glared.
"Just like the coyotes."
The sun was fat and orange as a pumpkin by the time we reached the bottom of the cliffs. There, at least, was something like a trail, even if it was partially vertical. Ralphie Jr. was treating the whole thing like a Boy Scout trip. Ted was surprisingly agile for a man who sit in a truck 14 hours per day, and as for me, I just tried not to look down. The mouth of the cave was in sight before Ted was willing to stop. It was at the top of a hollowed-out dent in the cliff. A big ice cream spoon had scooped out the yellowed rock around us.
"You two wait here,"
Ted grunted. He was gone for a long time. I shivered as I looked out over the dead land. The strand of wrecked cars and the dark shapes darting amongst the rocks and cacti below. One in particular made me grab Ralphie Jr.'s hand and lay as flat as I could against the still warm stone. It was 3 times the size of the other coyotes and was walking straight towards us, as casual as a businessman on his way to early lunch. When it looked at the hollow where we were hiding, its eyes were like 2 pinpricks of blazing white light. "I'm coming," those eyes seemed to say. and there's nowhere to run. Ted? I shouted over my shoulder. How's it going up there?
Good, but you two need to stay there.
Why? I was confused.
As bait,
Ted shouted back. Now, wait a minute.
Look, lady, you want to kill this thing? Get out of here or not?
Oh, hell no. Bang! I threw myself and Ralphie Jr. to the ground as the loudest noise I'd ever heard blasted down the scooped-out canyon. A coyote that had been about to ambush us lay dead in the brush. Ted, it seemed, knew what he was doing. Bang! A yelp. 2 more coyotes down. But there stood the largest one, approaching us with an unnatural stride, babbling in that yipping, snarling language to the pack that followed it. There was no way Ted had enough ammo for all of them. I closed my eyes, covered my ears, and for the moment, felt bad that the last thing Ralphie Jr. was going to see was his mom shaking like a fucking bowl of jello. 2 more shots made my eyes open. Ted was sliding down the cliff in a cloud of dust. The huge, freakish, 2-legged coyote was down, and the pack was scattering.
It's not gonna stay put for long, Ted snapped. Get some rocks, anything, weigh it down.
I didn't want to get any closer to the dark, pointy-eared body, but I did as I was told. I felt like a cave woman, creeping up to the thing with a rock in my hand. Is it... My voice was trembling. Is it a skinwalker?
Seriously, lady? Ted groaned. I swear you people see one weird thing in the desert, suddenly it's all skinwalker this, wendigo that. It's real disrespectful, especially when what you're looking at is a possessed guy in a fursuit.
Up close, the fur did look pretty artificial. And the name tag Buttercup did a lot for Ted's case as well.
Given that Las Vegas is only 80 miles away, shouldn't even need to ask where the poor fella came from. Although I do wonder how he got a demon inside of him. Hurry up with those rocks.
Ted rumbled behind me.
It's not done yet.
Sure enough, the thing started to writhe on the ground, even with 2 holes in its chest, and as it yipped and yiffed in that strange language, the coyotes stopped their retreat. One snapped at Ralphie Jr., who swatted it with a stick. Another sprung at Ted. He sprawled, the shotgun went flying, and the pointy-eared black shadow rose to block out the last pale light of sunset. I grabbed the shotgun, and this time, I paid attention to the recoil. The black-furred thing went down again, and soon all 3 of us were heaping everything we could onto it to hold it down. Ted disappeared up to the cave, and when he came back, there was a red gas canister in his hand. As he soaked and burned the possessed thing beneath the rocks, the coyotes howled. The gas can, I muttered. You knew how to kill that thing. You knew about the cave. You knew you'd need some people for bait. Ted turned to me, backlit by our flaming, furry barbecue. You picked us up on purpose. None of this was coincidence.
Nope,
Ted admitted.
Sure wasn't.
Maybe it was just the firelight, but it sure looked to me like there was something wrong with Ted's shadow. The forearms were too big, the back bent, the face stretched forward like a muzzle. I'm willing to bet your name's not even Ted Yellowhorse. Maybe even that if we opened up the trailer of that truck, we'd find the real Ted Yellowhorse lying dead on top of some cartons of baby formula or something. I re-racked the shotgun. I didn't know if it had any shells left, but sure sounded cool. I heard a snapping sound. Ted's hands were contorted into paws. His arms lengthened sickeningly towards the sandstone. The coyotes fell in line behind him.
Salted earth was ours long before you people ever climbed down from the trees. That one thought it could take our territory.
His face extended, and his canines twisted into a hideous smile.
We're a lot older, and a lot smarter. That one is drawing too much attention.
I took a step backwards and shrieked as I felt warm fur against my leg. We were surrounded.
Here's what you're gonna do for me, lady. You're gonna fire that shotgun into each of the cars down there. You're gonna wipe off your prints, put it in the hands of Ted Yellowhorse, who's indeed in the back of the trailer. You're gonna tell the police the story of a kidnapping and a psychotic truck driver. Take your time with the story, make it real good. Because if it isn't, you give them any reason to disturb our hunting grounds again.
All the coyotes howled at once. I got the message. Ralphie Jr. and I are going to crash at the motel while I give my statement to the cops and wait for the SUV to get fixed. After that, we're back on the road. Our destination? Any place where there's no sand. Hey there kids, it's me, MrCreepyPasta, and as always, I want to tell you thank you so much for watching tonight's video on YouTube or listening to tonight's podcast on the podcast. And I would very, very, very much appreciate it if you guys hit that subscribe button, or you hit that bell, or actually I think you have to do both, hit the subscribe button, then hit the bell, and make sure that all of your notifications are turned on so you actually see whenever new stories come out, because there's a new story that comes out almost every day of the week. And as always, I want to give a very big thank you to everybody who is on my Patreon. That means everybody. Everyone who is from the $1 tier all the way up to the, God, why do you pledge that much tier? But I especially want to give a big thank you to Jordan Alexander Sanchez, Stephanie Butler, Bobby Karman, Tristain Pelton, Chance Burnett, Diana Kraus, Kyle Reznak, Happy Birthday Ollie Whale, David Martin, scare-ington, the unkempt, Angelus, Spanky, Snootchie bootchies, Autistic Spidey, phruty, Seclude, Lupita Galvan, That Creepy Chick, Tyler Fletcher, Rebecca Harper, Merxinum, Red Shadow Cat, Xavier the Cheyenne, Demix, Sean Cadieu-baker, 6 Gay Rats in a Trench Coat, Turtleman, Rob Likes Sharp Things, Chaos Arts, Cryolinium, Zachary Gruffius, Lord Life's Best, Goreng Trimagacy, Maria Walker, Pain Gravy, Crazy Kid, Mr. Marcus Blitz, Aka Limchok, Dirt Diver 030, Matt Bach, Naughty Double, Voice of Sands, Coffee Zombie, Matthew McNeese, Shelly J, Jeremy H, Reltazol, Ficomel, Nana, Deleted Account, Melted Lake, Kali Sue, William King, Darth Miver, Michael Ortiz, Satanic Aries, Nessie, Bardo Hawk 764, Lambda M98, Harley, Sashi Suzaku, Croconut 509, Kaylee Ambrose, Suji Campbell, Stricken, Freddy Krueger, Nicholas Sicardi, Happy Birthday Jason Wilson, Lisa Cottrell, Caspian, Hades' Nephew, Tater Chip, Acid System, Prozac and Pancake Appreciation Society, Benjamin Welvart, Kiri the Sloth, Fester's Lampshade, Sky Harbor, Nico Kyle, Rafael Rodriguez, The Ginger Bros, Aaron Stormcrow, Daniel Polson, and Corey Kenshin. As always, you guys are the MVPs. Everybody who's on that list, everybody who's on that Patreon, everybody who's in the description, thank you so much. And if you'd like to join this list of names that I horribly mispronounce, head over to patreon.com/MrCreepyPasta. And as always, everyone, sweet dreams.